Epilogue!
And then comes the final chapter.
Which, you know, doing the final countdown again would...
Ooh, Wesley has lines. I feel important.
Yes. On the bridge of the Enterprise.
Wait, you should
Picard...
first, like, the chapter is listed as chapter 13 epilogue, so...
Yes. 13. Chapter 13. Epilogue. 13.
Yes. Chapter 13. Epilogue. On the bridge of the Enterprise, Picard and his crew were saying goodbye to the Doctor now that the entire situation had been resolved.
Now then, there's just one thing I'm curious about.
Picard said, before turning to face Wesley.
If all the absurdity of the fanfic universe has been erased from history, does that include the bit about Wesley being the master? No, Wesley was always the master. How else do you think he was able to find death so many times without regenerating at all?
The Doctor said, and Wesley began to laugh maniacally.
Indeed, I am the master, future ruler of all of time and space, and you will obey me.
He started glowing and shooting lightning from his hands.
Because let's face it, the end of Time Master was just hilarious. Secretly a Sith Lord with a genius ex-wife somehow managed to ruin and master resurrection potion while in prison. How could the universe not play around with that a little more?
Before noticing that I was still standing right there and realizing that, oh wait, commanding a Q to bow down before him might be a bad idea and could result in him being turned into a mere snow rat on Delta Vega, he wisely added,
Eventually.
With that, he jumped into the hyperlift, stormed down to the dock area, and hacked his way into a shuttlecraft. He then proceeded to ditch, laughing like a maniac as he zipped off into the darkness of space, never to be seen again. Or so assumed no one, ever. Beverly Crusher was so devastated to learn that her son was an evil Time Lord. Beverly Crusher was so devastated to learn that her son was an evil Time Lord conqueror from the planet Gallifrey that she did not even stop to consider how it made absolutely zero sense for her human son, to whom she gave birth, to actually be an alien who's lived for thousands of years. Of course, she could never have guessed that, in the earliest stages of her pregnancy, before she was even aware of it, the drifting ectoplasmic remains of a barely alive master passed into the Enterprise while traveling through space, and latched onto the most vulnerable life form as a permanent host. Crusher's unborn child, so early in its development, was the perfect host.
Wait, was Crusher on the Enterprise while she was pregnant?
I have no idea.
That seems off to me, but whatever. It makes more sense than most of this.
The entire explanation seems very far-fetched.
The Master was able to influence its growth, making sure that the child would have a phenomenal intellectual capacity, and even altering its DNA into TNA so as to enable enable regeneration later on. Yes, you're skeptical. But really, if the Master can turn into an ectoplasmic snake and possess people after being seemingly executed by the oh-so-cautious Daleks...
Which did happen in your so-called canon, by the way.
Would you really put it past him to hijack the development of an infant?
I suppose not.
I tried explaining this, but for some reason, I received no thanks, save for a sharp slap across my face. It didn't hurt, of course, since I wasn't truly mortal, but still! She hit me!
Data. I don't know.
Well...
Data said, attempting to determine what synthetic emotional response would be appropriate in this situation. The Doctor... oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much of this was... The ratio of first-person text in this in comparison to the rest of the story is ridiculous. The Doctor, having always been terrible at talking to parents, piped up,
Well, anyway, I just got a call from the 51st century about some trouble with an alliance of Cybermen and Borg. Never gonna work, that. The two have such opposed The two have such opposed ideologies, but still,
Yes.
I really should go make sure. No, but still, I really should make sure. Not sure, something interesting might actually happen. Independent Borg uprising, Independent Borg uprising, Cybermen adaptation, possibly unexplainable scientific phenomena. You really never know. I should get going, yes?
The Doctor opened the doors to his TARDIS and hopped in.
So, of course, for Doctor 12, I'm basically just rolling my eyes to indicate
You're making him
Scottishness.
Scottish.
I see. Well, good luck.
Riker called as the Doctor started up his TARDIS and left this timeline to save the universe for the billionth time. Oh, that's a wall of text.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
On
it
his
is.
journey, the Doctor ended up running into the Master several more times, and the two had many battles. More often than not, the Master would get away. But there were a few times when the Doctor successfully captured him. You know what, I'm going to read this really fast, because yada yada
Yep.
yada. Only to recognize his appearance as being the same as one of the people who had revealed themselves to be the Master in the fanfic universe. Some of the Masters caused so much trouble that the Doctor was forced to use the TARDIS's chameleon arch to wipe the other Time Lord's memories. He dropped one memoryless Master off in a modern-day alternate universe London with the false identity of being one Sherlock Holmes. And once that one got too clever, the Doctor was forced to wipe the Master's memory again, dropping him in the 24th century to serve Starfleet as Captain James T. Kirk. Yet another one would assume the role of Con Noonien Singh, who would end up in a fierce rivalry with Kirk without ever realizing that the two were actually the same person, and his two selves very nearly mutually destroyed one another. Another Master decided to settle down in London of his own volition to be a massive pain in the neck for his Sherlock Holmes self, identifying himself as the consulting criminal, James Moriarty. There was no reason for this, he just thought it would be funny to be an utterly obnoxious and similarly brilliant foil to his past self, since his past self wasn't doing anything too constructive anyway. Eventually Picard would run into Captain James T. Kirk again inside the Nexus, but by that time his memory of the fanfic universe had been wiped by Q so as to keep the universe from getting too inconveniently... by Q. The universe from getting too inconveniently convoluted. So he did not realize that it was the Master whom he was fighting alongside while preventing Soren from destroying a solar system.
This really isn't too important of a detail, but I might as well clarify, because you mortals always seem to be like... Well, this is clearly Q, but
It doesn't matter. You're doing it in the girly voice. It doesn't matter.
this really isn't too important of a detail, but I might as well clarify, because you mortals always seem to need such a crutch, even when it's a simple matter of putting two and two together.
After Kirk died and was buried under some rocks, his Time Lord DNA somehow resurfaced, allowing him to regenerate just after Picard left. The other memory-wiped Masters similarly regenerated and regained their memory after their deaths. This would make very little sense so far as Time Lord biology goes, except that Time Lord biological functions and regeneration laws are so convoluted in your 21st century understanding of it that I really don't need to go into further detail.
Well, this
But if I mu-
entire explanation is convoluted beyond all belief.
But if I must throw you a bone, let's just say that the Doctor couldn't bear to actually let his childhood friend and timeless enemy actually die. So he tweaked the chameleon arch just enough that the Master's Time Lord genetics would resurface if he ever reached the point of having to regenerate. And so the cycle continued. Oh, and remember that bratty little Q that made me kick out Picard? Remember how I said I never liked her? She got kicked out of the Continuum. It turns out she got blamed for all that fanfiction stuff, and considering how that little incident almost got us wiped out of existence, it wasn't a difficult decision for the entire Continuum to permanently exile and effectively execute her. Which means, of course, that there was once again a vacancy in the Continuum. I didn't advocate for getting Picard back, of course. I couldn't have my precious Capitan corrupted by the unsavory company I tend to keep.
That is to say, the rest of the Continuum.
But because the fanfiction universe apparently involved me having unprotected sex with Picard, the Continuum figured that the best solution was to create a brand new Q through a combination of my pattern and Picard's, as it last appeared in the Continuum. Which means that I have to take responsibility for the thing until it's old enough to fully enter the Continuum without its energy being resorbed by all the older, more willful Q. But it isn't like this is the first time. I mean, yes, haha, I got pregnant by Picard. This is obviously an excuse for my rival. Sorry. I mean, yes. Ha ha, I got pregnant by Picard. This is obviously an excuse for my rivals to get me out of the way for a while. The whole continuum has an awful sense of humor, but maybe the Q could use a bit of Picard's influence. Or something like that.
Something close to it.
Stalwart and idealistic like him, but savvy and charming like me. At least I can only hope.
You said it wrong earlier there. You
Yep,
said or
something close
something
to
like
it.
that when it was or something close to it.
Sorry. Or something close to it.
There we go.
Oh, look, I'm being all sentimental now, aren't I? Back on track, then. Back in Picard's time, just after the Doctor had left, Picard was left in a daze as to how on earth he was ever going to report all of this back to Starfleet. Riker, too, was rather concerned about this.
You know, Captain, if we actually report to Starfleet that Wesley was actually an immortal alien set on conquering the universe, they'd probably fire us.
Riker said.
I know, number one.
Picard said, and thought about it for a while.
Let's just say he left to join the Traveler.
Everyone agreed that this was a good idea, even though it really wasn't. Later, after Picard had recorded his log entry hand-waving Wesley's absence by making up events you human know as being part of the Star Trek Next Generation canon, in which Wesley leaves the series, he saw fit to record a second log entry, not to be heard by anyone else. It was purely for the sake of expressing himself somehow, because dear Jean-Luc knew all too well that keeping his experience bottled up like this would only impair his ability to focus on his career. And so the entry went.
Captain's log, stardate 47751.2. We have just parted ways with a mysterious creature known as the Doctor, with whom we have just had a rather unusual journey. It will take me quite a while to explain all that's happened. Let me just start off by saying, at the risk of sounding unprofessional, it was some seriously fucked up shit.
The end.
Well, no, that's not the Star Trek theme that I was going to end this with. Yeah. Like, I just figured, seeing how it ends on a captain's log, it obviously just has to, like, finish out with the proper, like, Star Trek end of episode music. By the way, does someone know where I can get a Star Trek Next Generation soundtrack?
A soundtrack?
Well... Well, no, not a soundtrack. But, yeah. It seems like there is at least one soundtrack release available for the series that should probably have, like, an end-of-episode theme and the credits music, so... I need to get my hands on that somehow. So anyway, that was Whotrek, the ultimate adventure one! And I'm going to assume that the one was ultimately just a failed attempt at doing an exclamation point, because this looks rather conclusive to me.
Yeah.